Yeah, I'm a little late to the game. And if you've put off watching it, you're probably wondering, is it any good? Is it anything like the movies? Should you watch it? Well, worry not, my fellow horror addicts, because I'm gonna give you the good, the bad, and the gory. Hey, I'm Gory B Movie, and I'm a horror addict, and today I'm reviewing Season 1 of MTV's Scream. So MTV's Scream originates with a small town legend about a disfigured boy named Brandon. He likes a girl, he gets beat up for it, and then he snaps and kills a whole bunch of people. This story ends with him getting shot by the police and then falling into the lake. Disfigured boy, bullying, body ends up in a lake. Sound familiar to anyone? Anyhow, we flash forward to present day, where a whole new crop of teenagers starts getting picked off one by a masked killer. Has Brandon returned from the grave? Is it Jason? Well, I'm gonna keep this spoiler free up until the end. Don't worry, I'll warn you. One thing I can tell you, it's not Billy Loomis. So I was pleasantly surprised by Scream. Because I love the movies, I really thought I was gonna hate this one, but it was actually pretty good. Well, so long as you look at it as its own show and not a spin-off of the movies. This has absolutely nothing to do with the movies. Really, the only similarity is, well, the title, and that the killer regularly calls his victims and disguises his identity with a voice changer.
Hello, Emma.
That's about it. None of the characters from the movies are in this, though I did like that they seem to pay very loose homage to the movies. There's even a girl in here named Riley. You know, like Tatum and Dewey Riley. And of course, there's the nerdy friend that knows everything about pop culture, only in this case it's more serial killers than horror movies.
Some guys like sports. I like serial killers.
Also, I loved the cameos here from horror legends like Tracy Mittendorf, who starred in the very first episode of Angel and was Julie in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. There was also Billy Campo, who starred in The Final Destination, and even a brief appearance from Tom Everett Scott, whom we saw in American Werewolf in Paris. Okay, maybe it's best we just forget that last film altogether. As far as the story goes, the origin story with Brandon was fantastic. Yes, it was similar in some ways to the Jason Voorhees legend, but it was unique enough that I was able to enjoy it without feeling like they ripped off one of my favorite movies. The story is also incredibly unpredictable. I was fully invested into figuring out who the killer was right up until the end. I watched this one with Lulz, and we spent most of our marathon tossing back and forth theories the whole way through. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this series, but it's far from perfect. For starters, the acting.
How about you take a breath, bro?
Oh, stop telling me what to do, bro.
It was hard to buy them as high school students and not actors playing high school students. If you've seen anything about this series, you know that this is not Ghostface from the movies. It makes you wonder if the characters are different, the setting's different, and even the mask is different. Can this really be called a Scream TV series? I would have enjoyed this more if they had just called it something else, because this is not Scream. Not just because they didn't have Ghostface. Actually, the more I got into the show, I didn't mind the mask so much. The explanation that it was a mask that Brandon wore after surgery made sense to me and fit the story well. But I watched this show because I love the Scream movies. In particular, the humor, the witty dialogue, the fantastic pop culture references, and the very meta look at horror movies. The Scream TV series maintains a fairly dark tone. There's very little humor here, and what pop culture references there were seemed forced and out of place. I gave Noah's character a pass because he's a geek, but from everyone else it just seemed uncomfortable. You know, like when people name drop a bunch of movies to prove that they're genre savvy.
What about Texas Chainsaw or Halloween?
Those are slasher movies.
And that's all it was. A bunch of name dropping, but none of the fun details that we saw in the original Scream. Like how the blood in Carrie was made from corn syrup. You know, the kind of trivia that true horror fans are all too excited to share. It was clear from the Scream movies that the writers knew horror movies. Pointing out cliches like the girl who runs up the stairs when she should be running out the front door. Or how Ghostface would ask his victims trivia questions from movies. This is a pretty standard slasher whodunit, and while it is unique to see it in a television format, it's not completely unique. Particularly considering that this season coincided with the first season of Scream Queens, which did pretty much the same thing, only better. From a slasher series, or really any show about teenagers, I expect naked shenanigans, foul language, and blood by the bucketful. Okay, the last one's pretty much for horror movies. But damn, buckets of blood could really improve a lot of TV shows. While there was some sexual content, there was really no nudity in the show, and for the most part, the language is pretty clean. As for the gore, there are a lot of cutaways during kill scenes, though I will say there is one pretty epic death towards the end of the series. There may not be enough here to satiate gorehounds, but I can see how this would be really appealing to casual movie watchers, teenagers, or anyone else who's looking to dip their baby toe into horror. So, should you watch it? I don't think you need to be a hardcore horror fan to enjoy this show. This is like diet horror. Just 1 calorie, not too much of that fattening blood and gore. Also, this show seems particularly geared towards teenagers and young 20-somethings. You know, the kind of people who watch other programming in MTV, like Jersey Shore or The Hills, or God, I don't even know what's on there right now. So if you're a young person who's looking for a little bit of horror and a whole lot of mystery to keep you guessing, this show is for you. But if you're like me and you're a hardcore horror fan that loves the Scream franchise, I think you can still enjoy this, so long as you forget that it has anything to do with the Scream movies. If you compare it to the movies, this one's gonna let you down pretty hard. But if you watch it as its own story, I think you might find yourself getting invested as I did. Now, as for the future of this show and season 2, I'm certainly gonna check it out when it shows up on Netflix. But with awesome horror television shows like American Horror Story, Ash vs. Evil Dead, and Scream Queens, MTV's Scream is gonna really have to kick it up a notch if they want to stay in the game. Okay, so now for some spoilery goodness. So if you haven't seen the Scream TV show, this is the part where you turn off the video. Have you done it yet? Well, if you haven't, you don't have me to blame, because you were warned. Spoilers, there will be. Like now. Okay, let's talk deaths. By far, my favorite death of the season was Will's. That was freaking brutal. I wish we could have seen a little bit more, but from what we did see, it was awesome. I also really enjoyed Hud's death, though I wish there was a bit more explanation on how the killer put that together. Awesome death, but really, like, how do you rig that up? As for the killer, I kind of had Piper pegged once she started talking about her dead father.
My dad was murdered.
But because I'd seen the Scream movies, I kept expecting 2 killers. I couldn't quite figure out who the other killer was. I thought there might be a twins angle to it, some kind of a twist that would implicate Kieran. I certainly didn't predict Audrey being involved. Now, we didn't really get 2 killers in the same way that we did in the Scream movies, but it looks like Audrey was an accomplice. But did she actually kill anybody? I don't know. And what the hell are they gonna do in season 2? I mean, we already know that Audrey was involved, so there's really no surprises there. And obviously somebody starts hacking people up again. So who is it? And are they gonna team up with Audrey, or are they going solo, or do they have a new person teaming up with them? I'm certainly excited to find out. Cut! So guys, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are for season 2. Also, were you able to predict the ending? Who'd you think the killer was? Thanks for watching!